Welcome back to the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show, brought to you by Salvatore's Pizza. Our next set of guests on our specialties hotline are from Rush-Henrietta Wrestling. And I will tell you that I'm embarrassed to say, Coach Marlowe, Mickey Marlowe, that in 18 years of doing this show, I think this is the first time I've had you on.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Well, that's a horrible job by me. It's probably, I'll tell you a story later about me being scarred as a young guy in wrestling. That's probably why. But
that's all right.
All kidding aside, also joining us, three-time Section 5 champion and SuperSectional champion 3 times. He's just a junior, third in states a year ago. I beg your pardon, 2 years ago. Jayden Scott. Hi, Jayden.
Hi, how you doing?
Steve Bradley, Rush-Henrietta Wrestling beat Hilton earlier this week. That's a headline I wish I would have seen. How about that, huh?
Yeah, that got our attention, and we've been talking about wrestling in the last couple of weeks and wanted to jump in. And Coach Marlowe, I know that I didn't see it. There's not a Greg or a Yanni in the Hilton lineup, but what does that win mean for your program? That's an attention getter for sure, correct?
Yeah, I mean, obviously every win's a big win. People have been chasing Hilton for quite a while, and yeah, they got some guys out of the lineup, but they're still pretty solid. I mean, they still got guys, and it certainly wasn't an easy win. It was a battle. We knew it would be, but yeah, I mean, it was a big one for sure. Kids were excited, and again, every win's a big win. And as you guys probably know, we're in a very competitive league, so you can win, you can beat Hilton and then lose the next one to a Pittsburgh. So we're lucky. We got a small, short season with some really good teams around us with a lot of good competition.
Jayden, you are 48-2. You were last year.
Yeah.
Second in the states at 132 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I know you want to get that state championship. You're just a junior, right?
Yeah, I'm just a junior, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because no states this year. How did you get started in wrestling? How old were you? Who got you going?
So my dad got me going. I believe I was like maybe 6, 7. And I loved WWE at the time. So I thought it was going to be like WWE and stuff like that. You know, it wasn't exactly that, but it was close enough. And I just loved throws and stuff like that. And it was fun. So I started like that in the RH dressing room, youth days. So that's how I started that. So
Jeff, here's a fact about Jayden. He finished second in 8th grade, but he lost to somebody from a Catholic school. So he was actually the public school champion with second place. So did they treat that, Jayden, like a state championship, the public schools? Or, I mean, are you just itching to get back next year and remove all doubt?
I'm itching to get back next year and remove all that. You know, I still gave all this stuff to him, you know, the Catholic kid. I still treated it as like, I'll take second. I'm still hungry to get the first, you know. Always training for that. So I just edged it off, let it go, and just been training.
Coach, Jayden came up to the varsity as an 8th grader? 7th grader. What did you see in him then? Did you see this kind of potential right away in this young man?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we've known about Jayden for a long time. I mean, in the youth ranks, my biggest thing was I was hoping that he'd stay at our age and we would get him, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I talk about Jayden. I mean, obviously he's athletic. We know that. But he's got a lot of other tangibles too. He's that athlete. We were talking the other day. You know, you talk about some of those athletes that kind of see things ahead of time and things slow down. He's that kind of guy. You know, he can just kind of see things, and I don't know. He's a pretty good all-around wrestler for us, and he's been like that since 7th grade. I mean, as a 7th grader, he came in. He was very mature for his age as far as being able to handle things. He doesn't really get rattled. You can see what you see today in this interview. That's Jayden. Smiles, does his thing. The one thing I always say too, though, is he's kind of all over the place sometimes, but when it's time to dial in for a match, that 6 minutes, he's a different person. It's fun. It's fun to coach guys like that. He's like that with football too. When it's time to compete, he changes a little bit. It's a different style, different face, different everything.
Jayden, how would you describe your wrestling style? Are you aggressive, defensive? Do you have any go-to moves?
Honestly, I would describe my wrestling style as really, I don't think it's even a style, to be honest with you. I think I just do whatever goes with the flow, and I love to like do anything new. So I might try something new here and there. I like defense a lot. So sometimes guys might get on my legs and I might do a little defense, but I think my style is more of like a go with the flow, see what I do, do what works and stuff like that. So that's funky, I would say that too. So I like that. That's my style.
Jayden, as a young man, this is not a sport where you see a lot of black wrestlers. Did
Yeah.
that ever deter you or give you pause to keep going, or did that say, you know what, I'm going to make a name for myself?
I just said I'm gonna make a name for myself. Just decided to wrestle. I'm gonna make a name for myself, so I'm just gonna keep going like that.
Good for you. Good for you. And here's the little, I told you I was going to pull the curtain back a little bit here. I'm from a
Yeah.
town called Canastota, which back in the late 80s was a really big player, Mickey's nodding, in wrestling. Like Class C school, but as good as like Baldwinsville and Spencerport. It was elite. And they wanted me to be a 91 pounder when I was in 8th grade. And my dad wanted me to do it. And I said, I want to play basketball. That's what I want to do. And it's the only time in my life my father ever tried to make me do something. And I was stubborn. I didn't do it. And I played basketball, did okay. But it's a tough sport. You have to want it. I always say this about wrestlers. If you don't buy in, you're never going to get on the mat. You're never going to make it to the room. Mickey, what do you look for in a young wrestler? Is it just heart and desire, or what do you look for? Athleticism? What do you look for?
I'd say the heart and desire is probably number one. Obviously, being an athlete's a bonus, but you can be athletic, and if you don't have all those other things to get through a practice every day, and it's tough to go out there in the competition's the hardest thing, getting out there and being exposed a little bit, So obviously, if you're athletic, it's a bonus, but those other things are way more important. Most wrestling coaches, we're tapping at every kid we see in the hall. Ask Jayden. I mean, every kid we ask to come out, and then they kind of weed themselves out, obviously. But, obviously those kids that are go-getters, if you're a tough kid and you're willing to compete, you'll survive in wrestling. You'll find a way to get wins.
What's it been like wrestling this year? You've been in front of the big crowds and the crazy atmospheres. And this year, I suppose it's probably just been maybe 2 parents per athlete. Has it been different? Have you been able to still get as jacked up and focused for matches, even though the crowd isn't as electric as it has been in the past?
For sure. I didn't think we would, or I would. I was talking to other coaches going in, and it was kind of like, it's going to be a little more relaxed and everything, but it's not. You want to compete. And our guys in our dual meets, it really hasn't changed. I mean, they're jumping and yelling and screaming. You don't really always realize who's in the bleachers. At least I don't. I'm more aware of my guys on the bench. So I don't really feel, unless you're like at the state tournament, that's a whole different ballgame. But as far as wrestling and dual meets, it's been exciting. It's been fun, and the kids are definitely into it. So, but it's different. It's very fast and furious. It's been a short season, and I think I'm speaking for a lot of other coaches in other sports that I've talked to. It's hectic. For whatever reason, it's hectic. But we're glad we're doing it. That's for sure.
Coaches that I've talked to have said that you have so many other responsibilities too, in terms of like the guest list and things like that. Want to shift over to Jayden for a second. Jayden, the first time I became aware of you was watching a football highlight several years ago. You were 8 or 9 years old, and there was this viral tape, and I think Jeff actually did the story on it. So we know you love football too. And this year, football is starting on Monday.
Yeah.
And there's still wrestling season going on. So what's your life look like the next several weeks?
So luckily our football coaches are really understanding. So they kind of move the practices to make it work. So I'll probably be doing double practices, which is like usually what I do anyways. So it's not really gonna affect me too much. And I like double practices, I like to be active and stuff, do stuff here, do stuff there, work on my football, then work on my wrestling. I like doing both of them, but luckily our football coaches actually move the practices up a little earlier so we can hit some of those wrestling practices and not interfere and make everything work, because it is an odd year, so you gotta go with the flow and stuff like that.
Well, you're gonna be a very busy young man. We wish you all the best. And before we wrap, I want to tell Coach Marlowe, congratulations. You're our Coach of the Week for all you do for Rush-Henrietta athletes and Section 5 wrestling. I know you've always been a tremendous help to my former colleague James Johnson at the Denver Crayon Chronicle. And that's what our Coach of the Week award is from G&G Fitness. For coaches to make the difference in kids' lives. And I know you've done that for more than 2 decades. So congratulations, Coach.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, that's a wrap on another week of the Cows and Ferris High School Sports Show. Jayden Scott, thanks for being on our show.
Thanks for having me.
Coach Marlowe, thanks again.
Thanks for having me. And thank
Steve
you.
Bradley, we'll talk to you again real soon, all right?
Sounds good. Mickey, we won't wait another 18 years to ask you back. How about that?
That's fine.
You've been listening
Thank
to the
you, guys.
Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show brought to you by Salvatore's Pizza. Have a good week, everybody.